And at this time, it is our honor to welcome our guest speaker, Carl Sharperson, Jr.
The first thing, can everybody hear me okay? The first thing is I have a beef with the Colonel. He did not tell me that I was going to have to follow Miss Rachel. He did not tell me that. That's a tough act to follow. It is a pleasure to be here. The title of my message is Sharp Leadership with MMA Style. Sharp Leadership, MMA style, Marine Military Academy style. It's not mixed martial arts, okay? First, I want to thank Colonel for inviting me, as well as the Sergeant Major. I want to say thanks and welcome to the alumni. I want to say thanks to the faculty and staff, parents, guests, and most of all, the 2021 graduates. It has been 2 months shy of 50 years since I first set foot on this campus. And it brings back memories. It brings back memories like Cooney Beasley, who's here today, smartest man in the room. You know how you probably have some of those cadets at MMA now, know everything about everything, right? Cooney ended up graduating at the age of 16, got commissioned at the age of 19, served in the Army. Now he's Dr. Cooney Beasley. An example of the type of individuals that you're sitting with right now that you don't even recognize. I think about Charlie Hayes, who's a postgraduate with me, 6'3", high hurdler. He went to the University of Texas PLC program. I see him at TBS, the basic school. We reunite. Retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps. Bob Peterman, who was also a postgraduate person with me. Bob is a retired Navy SEAL, graduated from the Naval Academy. Eli Turner from San Diego, California, 400 relay guy, ended up going to the Naval Academy and retiring in the Navy. Mike and Kenny Morton. Kenny was the quarterback, Mike was the running back. And you know who the coach was, Coach Gunny Morton. There's a guy named Chip Hayward, who was a 9th grader when I was a postgraduate. So once I got the nod to be the commencement speaker, I reached out to him. I hadn't talked to him in 6 months ago was the first time I talked to him. He read my book, wrote me a nice note, and talked about the fact that he was at MMA as a 9th grader. I was a postgraduate in Alpha Company. He was the shortest kid in the company. And he talked about the fact that his name was Hayward, but he was called Hay-Wuss, not an endearing term. He dealt with it, but he says he continued in Alpha Company. His senior year, he was the backup quarterback. He participated in the physical fitness program, went to Washington, D.C., and Chip Hayward is graduated from Georgia Tech in engineering, architectural school, and he is responsible for all the architect in Tampa. You look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and all those facilities there, he's responsible for that. Shortest cadet in Alpha Company. He comes back to a reunion 20 years later. He runs into a guy, he says hi to him. The guy says, "Oh, Chip, I remember you. You were a role model for me. I remember you speaking to me. I was a short cadet also." This cadet that was talking is a retired colonel in the Marine Corps. Chip didn't realize how he had impacted that person by being at the academy, by just saluting. So the reason that's important is you just never know who you're going to impact here at Marine Military Academy or in the rest of your life. I think about Mike Forrester. Mike Forrester was a senior. I ran into Mike again. He went through the PLC program at the University of Texas, and we went through the basic school together. He retired as a lieutenant colonel. Sergeant Major Staggerwall. Woo! Sergeant Major Staggerwall had 2 sons that attended here, and he did everything at the time. When I was here, there was only 3 companies, 3 drill instructors, and 2 coaches. Gunny Morton. What can I say? Coach Gunny Morton. And most of all, Chip Bonner. And his family. Mrs. Bonner is here now. She's 89 years old. I went out to dinner with them last night, and we were having a conversation, and this lady comes over, and she says, "Are you famous so-and-so and so-and-so?" I says, "No, I'm not." She says, "Oh, okay." I said, "Are you looking for somebody famous?" She says, "Yeah." And I said, "What is your role?" She says, "I'm the mom of Fox Company at MMA." I said, "Really?" She says, "Can you come over to our table?" It was about 40 or 50 Fox Company moms. I talked to them. Now, here's what I want to say. So currently, you have an organization, it might be informal, to basically help take care of some of the cadets, which is very, very important. Miss Bonner was my Fox Company. So if there are other companies that don't have that going on, you might want to do that. It's very powerful. Now, I gifted my book to the 34 graduates of Marine Military Academy. It's called Sharp Leadership, Overcome Adversity to Lead with Authenticity. There are 5 principles in that book that I want to talk about, and they're lifelong principles that I have applied throughout my life. The first principle is the letter Q. If you're taking notes, Q. Quitters never win, and winners never quit. I grew up in Washington, D.C. In my neighborhood, everybody looked like me. At the age of 14, my parents moved me to Spotsylvania, Virginia, which is about 60 miles south of Washington, D.C., during the same time period as the movie Remember the Titans. My experiences were very similar, right? So I helped integrate a school in Virginia. It was an environment where nobody looked like me and they didn't want me there. But I learned a lot of lessons in that, and this is what I learned primarily. Everybody wants the same thing. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your nationality is. I don't care where you came from, what your education is. Everybody wants the same thing. They want to be loved, they want to be respected, and they want to be successful. That is what I learned. I saw people going from calling me names to being my best friend because they got to know me. So I integrate the school. I go out for football the first time in the 9th grade. I never played tackle football before. I was pretty fast. I could catch a ball. Coach Sparks, who was the 3rd most influential person in my life, gave a talk I'll never forget. We got our pads the first day. He said, "You got your pads today. If you don't want to play anymore, turn them in. No harm, no foul. If you stay to the next day, I need you to stay until the end of the season, because quitters never win and winners never quit." He said, "If you quit my football team, you might quit school. Quit school and get married, you might quit your wife. Have kids, you might quit your kids. Because once you quit the first time, it's easier to quit the next time." So I developed a mindset that I would never quit. I went out for football, did not have fun in the 9th grade, got my head beat in, but I did not quit. Fast forward, my senior year, I'm the most valuable player of the football team. That never would have happened if I had quit. My senior year in high school, I graduated from high school in 1971. Vietnam War was still going on. Myself and 2 other guys on the football team get called to the office. We don't know why we get called to the office. In walks this guy, 6'3", 200 pounds, blue suit, white shirt, blue tie, white cover. He says, "I'm from the Naval Academy, and I want to recruit you to play football." I didn't know what the Naval Academy was, and it was only 90 miles up the road. Primarily because there weren't a whole lot of people that looked like me that were going to the Naval Academy. Went home and talked it over with my dad, who was a Mumford Point Marine. He says, "Carl, it's a pretty good opportunity." I said, "Okay." Nobody else was offering me a scholarship. So I said, "I'm going for it." I applied and did not get in. I did not get in because I was not competitive academically. My GPA and my SAT scores were not competitive with the caliber of people that were going to the Naval Academy. You look at the profile of cadets at the Naval Academy. We're talking honor roll. We're talking captain of 3 or 4 sports. Okay? We're talking 20% Eagle Scouts. Okay? That's the caliber of individuals that were going to school at the Naval Academy. And I was not competitive academically. So I came to Marine Military Academy, 1971, July. Get off the plane, first time I was on a plane. Get off the plane, guess who meets me? Coach Gunny Morton. And that was my introduction to Marine Military Academy. So at Marine Military Academy, I learned to study for the first time. I didn't realize that in order to study, you read a book, and if you don't understand it, you read it again. And if you don't understand it, you read it again, right? I was pretty good in math because I had a 3rd grade teacher that gave me the love of math. I was pretty good in grammar, but I didn't like to read, right? So here at Marine Military Academy, I studied, I learned, and I applied to the Naval Academy and got accepted. So I entered a class at the Naval Academy. My freshman year, I'm taking chemistry. Everybody at the Naval Academy is an engineer, right? After about 2 weeks, it's clear that the teacher is speaking French and I only understand English. I can remember crying myself to sleep at night saying, Lord, what am I going to do? I said, you know what? I am not going to quit. Coach Sparks says, quitters never win and winners never quit. So what I did was I set up some instruction with my professor, and he went over about an hour's worth of formulas and things like that. It became a little bit clearer, but what I did was I committed whatever time I needed to for chemistry. I spent more time in chemistry than all my other subjects put together. And I made a B in chemistry first semester and a B in chemistry second semester. Quitters never win and winners never quit. Graduated from the Naval Academy. I played football at the Naval Academy. I graduated in 1976. Not only did I decide to go into the Marine Corps, I decided to become a pilot in the Marine Corps. Ground school, the first day of ground school. What they told me in 1977 was the attrition rate is 66%. That means only 1 out of the 3 of y'all that start ground school are going to get your wings. I looked to the left, I looked to the right, and I said, I'm sorry, y'all aren't going to be here, but I'm going to be here. Coach Sparks said, quitters never win and winners never quit. So that's number 1. Number 2 is a T. Take care of your troops. Always take care of your troops. And I learned that for the first time at Marine Military Academy. At Marine Military Academy and the Marine Corps, the higher the rank, the later you eat, right? That's not true in the civilian world, right? You always take care of your troops. If you take care of your troops will take care of you. If you don't take care of your troops won't take care of you. So those of you that are not in the military and not planning on going into the military, you say, Carl, that's fine, but how does that apply to the civilian world? I'm glad you asked. As I've taken over several organizations in Fortune 500 companies, one of the things that I determined was the first 6 or 7 months, I spent time trying to develop trust and allowing people to believe that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. Because my predecessors have lied, cheated, stolen, and treating their employees and their people like dirt. That's why it's important to tell the truth all the time. At the Naval Academy, plebe year is basically an opportunity to go through a lot of rigor and learn about discipline and physicality and things like that. And there's this big book called Reef Points. It's got all kinds of military stuff in it. You have to know it. You have to know anything in that. You have to know 3 articles off the front page, the sports page. You have to know the current meal, the future meal, which is 7 courses, as well as several other things. And any upper class can ask you a question at any time, and you're expected to know it. So I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how intelligent you are. At some point in time, somebody's going to ask you something that you're not going to know. And there's only 4 answers you can answer. Yes, sir. No, sir. No excuse, sir. Or I'll find out, sir. Those are the only 4 answers you can give, right? What it teaches you is it's important to tell the truth no matter what, even if there are consequences. As a pilot, if my crew chief told me that the oil reservoir was full and it was not, I could crash, kill, and burn, right? So in the military, it's very important to do that. The fourth letter is R, and R stands for relationships. It's all about relationships. Nobody gets to where they are by themselves. It's all about relationships. December 23rd, 2010, I go in for a routine colonoscopy. The doctor says everything looks good. I go to Florida and visit with my wife's family. All of a sudden, my stomach hurts. Can't lay on my stomach, can't lay on my back. I go to the doctor. Doctor gives me some pills. He says, I know what it is. I come back a week later, nothing's improved. And he calls me and he finally says, I'm going to do an x-ray of your stomach. So the doctor does an x-ray of my stomach, calls me at work, I'll never forget it. He said, Carl, I see enlarged lymph nodes in your stomach, and I'm going to refer you to an oncologist. The first time I heard the C word, the cancer word, I thought about three things. How long am I going to be here? How am I going to spend my time? And who am I going to spend my time with? I wasn't thinking about how much stuff I had, how much money I had in the bank, none of that stuff, right? So the treatment for that was 6 rounds of chemo, 3 weeks apart. And while I'm going through that struggle, several people who I developed relationships with had started pouring into my life. One was a guy named Stan Gray. Stan Gray graduated from the Naval Academy a year after I did. Sent me a book called I Choose to Fight by a guy named Tommy Harper. Tommy Harper came to the Naval Academy with the class of 1977, which is a class behind me. Tommy was 6'3", 230 pounds, tight end from California. Worked his way all the way up to second string tight end. We're getting ready to play Michigan at the big house, right? And he had had some health problems. And the doctors told Tommy before that game that not only are you not going to Michigan, we're going to have to do surgery. They did emergency surgery on Tommy Harper. He was diagnosed with testicular cancer at the age of 19. They did not tell Tommy that he was given an 8% chance to live 6 months. They told the coaches, they told his parents, and they told everybody else. Tommy's mindset was, I'm going to beat this thing and I'm going to get back on the football field. So that's the way he lived his life. So I'm reading this book by Tommy Harper, and it helped me go through my cancer journey, because that's what a testimony does. It allowed me to do that. So Tommy ended up living until he was 55 years old and had 2 kids. They told him, you're going to die in 8 months and you'll never have children. So because Stan Gray poured into my life and gave me that book, that helped me through my cancer journey. Let me tell you how small the world is. I'm talking to Colonel Dowling a couple of weeks ago, and we have a common person, Stan Gray. Stan Gray was the colonel's company officer at 8th and I in Washington, D.C. That's how small the world is. So that's one person that poured in my life while I was going through my cancer journey. Not only was I sick, I was broke. Broke, right? I'm thinking, what in the world am I going to do? I said, you know what? I'm going to call on my brothers. I contacted Kevin. Kevin was the president, or is the president, of my class at the Naval Academy, Alumni Association. Kevin contacted a guy named Keith, who was a company mate of mine and a fellow United States Marine Corps pilot. Keith put together a GoFundMe program before GoFundMe was in existence. My classmates and alumni supported me financially for an entire year, some of which I hadn't seen in 30 plus years. That's how important relationships are. And the last point is F. It stands for faith, family, and friends. As I was going through my cancer journey, Slewfoot, or the devil, has a way of putting negative things in your head all the time. So the only way I know how to deal with that negative stuff is to put positive things in my head. So when I had negative things going through my head, when I was getting chemo or lying in bed, or because you haven't had an opportunity to spend a lot of time by myself during that time period. So one of the things I did was I would recite one of three scriptures: the Lord's Prayer, the prayer of Jabez, or the 23rd Psalm. And those negative things would leave my head. I started walking at the time, so I'd walk every day for 2 hours while I was going through my cancer journey because a neighbor of mine told me to do that. So that's what I did also. So after the chemo treatment, I was cleared, cancer-free, and those were things that I learned throughout that process. And I do believe that those are life-changing principles that'll work in anything that you do. Now, all you parents out there, I'm gonna give you a special treat. The best gift that you can give your child is to learn the ability to suffer well. The ability to suffer well. And why is that important? That's important because life is going to come at them. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when it's going to happen. And when that happens, they need to be able to go through some adversity. I'm going to give you an example of my son, which is a way that you can, an example of what you can do as a parent to help them to suffer well. And I always looked at life as a teaching moment. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for teaching moments. So my son was in the 9th grade. My wife and I both became substitute teachers because we had to give him cover. He was special. When I say special, he wasn't bad, but he pushed the envelope, you know what I'm saying? So my wife and I both became substitute teachers. So I get a call from his teachers, and he's in the 9th grade taking Spanish. And I get a call from the teacher. Teacher says, Carl's acting up in class. That's Carl the third. He's acting up in class. I said, okay. I said, what do you want me to do? She says, well, there's a couple of things you can do. You can threaten him to come up here, you can talk to him, or you can do nothing, whatever you want to do. I said, well, I'm coming up there. No, you don't have to. I'm coming up there, right? So I come to the Spanish class, back of the class. Students filing. My son files, hey, Dad, how you doing? I said, I'm doing fine, son. Class goes on. Class is over. He says, I see you at the car, Dad. I said, no, come back here for a second. I want to talk to you for a little bit. So I said, so there was a teacher and a student teacher. I said, is this how class is normally conducted? They all started laughing. Oh, no. I said, normally somebody says something and somebody else says something and the class erupts. And my son says, but Dad, I don't start it. I never started. I said, okay. So I told my son, I said, Carl, I want you to apologize to the teacher and the student teacher while I'm here. And then I'm gonna give you a choice. Tomorrow, you can apologize to the class when I'm here, when I'm here, or if I'm not here. Oh, I'll do it when you're not here. I said, okay. Next day, goes to class, comes home. I said, Carl, how was class? Oh, it was okay. I said, did you apologize to the class? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, how did it go? He had a funny look on his face. He said, I don't know, Dad, it was weird. I said, did you apologize? He said, yeah, I apologized. And then my classmates asked me if Carl's dad was the only dad that was called. And the teacher said no. And then 3 other students stood up and apologized to the class. What that teaches is you're accountable for what you do. So that's a small teaching lesson that I gave my son during that time period. Now, if you think that you don't have to teach your child how to suffer well and you can protect them, and you're going to send them to a quote-unquote Christian school, I got to tell you, there are wolves out there also. So when they leave the house at 18, you become an advisor. And they better have all the skills that they need to do what they need to do. What do they need to be able to do? Do their laundry. They need to be able to work. They need to be able to manage their money. They need to be able to develop healthy relationships, right? They need to be able to do all that stuff when they leave your house. So if that's the end point, when they're in your home through those 18 years, you do something totally different, if that's the end point. I gave a challenge. I gave a challenge to the cadets, right? My challenge was read my book, write a paper on my book, talk about how the book can help you and how you're going to use those principles throughout your life, all right? And what I wanted to do with that was I wanted to teach a lesson. It's a teaching moment, right? Now when I told Sergeant Major that, Sergeant Major said, that might be kind of tough because they got AP testing and they got this, they got that. I said, I understand. So put the challenge out there. We're going to separate the chaff from the wheat. That's what we're going to do. So I want the parents, friends, and guests of the graduate whose initials are RAF. Raise your hand. RAF. Y'all know what that stands for? Ralph Alexander Frank. Raise your hand, Ralph. I'm sorry, Ryan. Where's Ryan? Okay. Ryan was the first graduate to turn in that paper. Now, I want y'all to remember that name because he's going to do some good things. He prioritized it. Why is that important? Here's what's important. One of the most important lessons you can learn in life. When you know of someone that's done something that you want to do and they can teach you how to do it, you can learn from their experiences and get you some new experiences that will propel you ahead of where you would normally be because of what you read or what they told you. One of the most important lessons I have learned. Learn from the best of the best. Now, this exercise is easy. And this exercise, you have a do-over. If you didn't do it, there's a do-over. In life, you don't get do-overs. A lot of times you don't get do-overs. It's life or death. So it's an opportunity for a do-over. So anybody that didn't do that can still do the process. You got my contact information and send me that information. Now, how can I help you graduates? Because you're a graduate of Marine Military Academy, and I'm an alumni, and you have family and friends that are alumni, you can feel free to contact me at any time if I can help you with anything. You might be getting ready to take a job. You say, Carl, I got some questions. You might say, I'm getting ready to go to this school. You might say, I got a bad boss. I mean, it could be anything. You might say, I got some issues with my dad and my mom. It doesn't make any difference. You can contact me, and I'm willing to be a resource for that. Anybody that's listening to this, I'll open it up for the same thing. So that's how I can help you. How can you help me? I believe that my book, Sharp Leadership, Overcome Adversity to Lead with Authenticity, is a life-changing book. It's multi-generational. I've had a CEO read it. A 99-year-old great-great-grandmother read it. I probably sold more to military veterans, but it talks about overcoming these principles in the book as well as some others. So it's kind of like a guide. And after each chapter, it asks questions like, what are you going to do differently? What did you learn? So I believe that it's a life-changing book. So if you can help me get this book and these principles in the hands of as many people as possible, that's something that you can do. I really believe in that. Now, when I was at Marine Military Academy, I can remember some things that Gunny Morton said, some of which I can't repeat in here. One of them was, he talked to us affectionately when we did something that wasn't quite right. And he said, 4-letter word that begins with an S, and then he said bird, so you are a blank bird. Endearing term. Another term that he said was, we've been going through tough times and things like that on the football field, or he's also our DI, and he said, you gotta want it. You got to want it, right? You gotta want things in life. But the other term that I remember that he said, which was probably most impactful and kind of talks about the things that I talk about, is he said, there's only one thing worse than an excuse. And that is an excuse. So remember, Q, quitters never win, winners never quit. T, take care of your troops take care of you. Always tell the truth, and the truth will set you free. And there's a famous movie that says, you can't handle the truth. The R stands for relationships. It's all about relationships. And faith, family, and friends. Now, you say, okay, Carl, so you go through life and, how does this stuff apply? I'm gonna give you the most recent gift that I got. The most recent gift of adversity that I got. June the 9th of last year, 2020, my wife goes in for back surgery. Right? She's been in back pain for like 15 years. They found a cyst. She has an operation between L4 and L5, okay? We have it operated on. She's pain-free. First time she's been pain-free in a long time. 6-month recovery. 2 months into recovery, because she's out of pain, she feels a lump on her breast, okay? The lump leads to a mammogram. Mammogram leads to an MRI. The MRI leads to stage 3 breast cancer. 16 rounds of chemo, double mastectomy. But she's got a good prognosis. So life's gonna hit you. And when it hits you, these are the principles that I use to overcome that. I'm gonna leave you with this. Simplify and simplify. Simplify means always faithful, and life is not that complicated. When it gets complicated, you need to simplify it. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Oh, thank you. It's in my bag.